Yo, before we talk about the defensive ends that this franchise has that I'm extremely high on, that's right, you heard me, I got to tell you about how high I am on my lawn. My lawn is the best lawn to ever exist. It's the best lawn ever. And that's because of Green Lawn Fertilizing. They are based in the Philadelphia area. They are the best in the market. Experts in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And they are so knowledgeable. They've created their own custom blend that will help out your lawn recover from the drought that we had 1 year ago. The first round is so important to lay the groundwork. That's why they're giving you 2 free treatments and 10% off for all of you early birds. So make sure you check out the link in the description, which will take you right to their website through me. It'll say, hey, Brodes sent me here. And any new customer who signs up between March 17th and March 21st will be entered to win 4 lower level Phillies tickets. The winner will be announced March 25th, so do not miss out. Get your lawn looking pretty. Get yourself to a Phillies game lower level. That's going to be a blast. Make sure you check it all out down below. With that said, enjoy the show. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Bleacher Report, and I've been doing a lot of thinking. Now, I do a lot of thinking every day of my life, but in particular, the defensive ends. How can I not have that consume my life? Brandon Graham retired a day ago, and it broke my heart. And now I'm starting to ponder about the next wave. Where do they go from here? And Jalix Hunt already put out there on social a picture of him and BG saying how much he means to him and how much he was able to lean on him and learn from him on and off the field. And again, I've said this before, but just thinking about how Brandon Graham has relayed such an important message throughout the NovaCare complex to the point where he is going to still be in there just by everything he's taught those young men. It's an awesome thing to think about. But now there is 4 guys with more potentially on the way, depending on where Howie Roseman elects to go in the draft. But right now we know about Ojulari, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, and Uche. All things considered, knowing that they are financially strapped to some degree, and Josh Sweat, Milton Williams was going to leave and Brandon Graham was going to retire, you could be in a lot worse spot than that. I'm not telling you it's the most lethal pass rush to ever exist. I'm not telling you it's premier as hell either. I don't know yet. I'm intrigued by Ojulari. I'm intrigued to think about what it could be if he's healthy. And he has a track record of getting banged up, but this is the same exact medical staff that helped the Eagles be the most healthiest team I've ever seen back in 2022, getting to the Super Bowl and having all of your starters. That's a ridiculous thing to have. And then you think about in 2024, this most recent postseason run, again, injuries, not that terrible. I think the Eagles have probably done a lot of homework, a lot of research on how they can maximize their talent and put them in positions to keep them as healthy as humanly possible. What was the reaction up in New York the second Saquon Barkley got paid the big ticket? You better watch out. He's not worth it if he's going to get injured. He may have some nagging injuries. He may have stuff that's going to keep him off the field. This dude was rocking 2K yards. This guy was doing 2,000 and would have been in the history books if it wasn't for the Eagles kicking ass so much that last game of the regular season wasn't even worth his time, right? So I do have to factor in that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and everybody else involved in the decision-making on what type of medical staff the Eagles move forward with, they seem to have a pretty strong track record to this point. So maybe Ojulari, instead of only playing 7 games like he did his sophomore season, had 5.5 sacks that season, by the way. 7 games, 5.5 seasons. He came into the NFL rocking 8 sacks. Think about if we had a rookie, we draft him in the first round, and this dude pops off getting to the opposing quarterback 8 times. He's 24 years old. You know how much growing is still there? And the most important part of this all is you get to play with Jalen Carter. Everybody is glued to 98. Everybody's thinking about 98. Everyone knows where 98 is every snap, every play, every single game. He can't beat us. Well, guess what? You forgot about Ojulari. You fell asleep because you were tracking Jalen Carter all the time. I think he's going to have a breakout, ridiculous season. I really do. So is Nolan Smith. The one that's still more of an unknown is Uche, just because it was 2022 where he rocked 11 plus sacks or so. And other than that, it's been blah. But here's my optimistic view on Josh Uche and that signing. Is Vic Fangio clearly knows talent. Vic Fangio obviously knows strengths and weaknesses. And when he watched Zach Bond, there was something that told him we're going to utilize him the way that we feel we can get the most out of him. And maybe there's a way to get the most out of Josh. Maybe there's a way to get creative, to look at his skill set, to see the tape, maybe reflect back to 2022 and what was transpiring back then. He's only 26. It's not as if he's 30-something years old, and he is what he is. Now, he's kind of getting close to this is your max, right? I think when you're in the NFL, just me speaking here, not statistically speaking, once you're in that 28, 29 range, you're playing with your prime of knowledge, your prime of your physique, and just understanding the league. And, once you hit the 30s, it's the back nine. And when you're 23, 24, 25, there's still a lot to absorb and learn technique. You master the technique, and then, everything else becomes a little bit easier for you, but it takes time to learn those details. So I'm just talking out loud a little bit. It's getting close to where he needs to maximize himself fully with all of the experience and the snaps and the physical side of it. But we'll see. I mean, it's more of, I believe in Vic Fangio to help out his side of the football and help out anybody who is sort of trying to figure this thing out and put themselves on the map more. This is the best place to do it, too. Knowing that you get paid and you get rewarded in-house, or you can go elsewhere and record a nice contract for you and your family, and then you're good to go at whatever your next destination is. But there are reasons to believe that when you put an Eagle sweater on, there's a serious chance that you play hard, you go out there and perform, and you execute, then you actually do get rewarded for it. And that's not everywhere. It doesn't always go that way. 1-year deals, you're surrounded by a well-ran organization with a lot of talent around you, so you're set up to succeed. You look at the coordinator, too, on the defensive side. This guy's been around football longer than half of these people who are playing have breathed. You know what I'm saying? That's how long this guy has been in the fabric of the National Football League. He's going to maximize a lot of these guys. Even Jalix Hunt. I think Jalix Hunt is ready to take that next step too, considering he's been chilling, he's been waiting, he's been learning, and now it's more of the let's open the door to see if he can push through. Let's crack the door open and see what he's made of. He just watched from a distance what it takes to win a Super Bowl. That is so valuable, it's not even funny. To see it from the outside watching. Now, he was a part of it, more of a part of it than someone watching from another team, of course, but he wasn't a staple of the defensive front. You got to know what it's like. And when you get to experience that firsthand and watch it while you're a part of the locker room presence, while you're a part of the film study, while you're a part of the day-to-day grind, you're a part of the week preparation, the planning, the details, all of it, it shows you how much really goes into the full product. People only see what happens on Sunday. People only see what goes down when it's 1 o'clock and it's 4:05 or it's 4:25 or it's 8:10. But reality is the winning is done prior. The winning is done way beforehand. It happens on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday when Nick Sirianni's sitting around with his crew, and then they deliver the message to the team on how we are going to expose the flaws of the team that's upcoming. And guys like Jalix Hunt, who have watched Brandon Graham and watched Josh Sweat and watched any of these other pass rushers, even Nolan Smith, a young cat that you can learn from. There's so much to that, and I'm just excited for where they are now, knowing that Howie's still on the prowl, and there's still more for him to do. You can never count him out by any means. And, you know, if you look at the first-round draft pick, I know it's late in the draft, and that's what happens when you win a Super Bowl. But when you draft that late, it's not the same as being in the range where the Jalen Carters are right there. But you never know what happens if you want to trade up. Right? You could find someone on your draft board that is top 15, and then at 22, 23, 24, they're still flirting around, and he's still around. Well, then you can do the same thing you did when you realized that Jalen Carter's right there. Let's make the move. Let's go after our guy. We're getting a top 15 talent. We're getting someone who's on our big board at 12, but he's sitting there at 25. Let me jump up and make this thing happen. So I can't rule out Howie doing that, and that person could be in the defensive end room as well once the season gets rocking and rolling. I'd imagine they have their senses tingling, though, of we really do need to continue to get bodies so we can make our rotation on the defensive side of the football as rock solid as humanly possible, because as intrigued as I am with where they currently are, a lot of it is because of what was surrounding the circumstances more than it is these four guys. And I don't want to downplay them. I do not want to downplay them whatsoever. I am intrigued. You could do a lot worse with where you were than Uche, Ojulari, Nolan Smith, and Jalix Hunt. You could do way worse than that. But there's still also more meat on the bones, too. And if you can filter in a first-round draft pick with some juice and maybe, I don't know, it's a Nolan Smith 2.0, I'm just saying. Nolan Smith was their second first-round draft pick. Took him a little bit to get going. But now that I realized how much it really ate BG alive, I knew the bus label was a part of BG's story. Everybody knows that, duh. But I didn't know it got to the point where his wife had to beg him to go outside. I didn't know it was to that extreme. So for Nolan Smith to have that type of person to lean on right next to him, it's so obvious why we saw Nolan break out rather quickly. And we saw Nolan compete at that high of a level. BG probably took him aside and said, yo, dude, I've been in your shoes. I've been in your position. It's not easy. This is how you're going to get through it, though. This is what I did, and it really helped me. This is going to be my way of showing you it's done. All right? It's doable. Excuse me. It can be done. It's doable. Go look at my resume. Go look at my stats. Go look at what I did since breaking out. You're going to follow my lead. And then Nolan Smith becomes the next wave of leadership in that room because of everything BG has taught him and the way he mentored him throughout the entire process. And there are two actual younger kids on the defensive side of the football that I believe is going to be tremendous for this organization for years to come, not just for what the production is on the field, but who they are as people. And I had the luxury of actually interviewing Nakobe Dean. He's one of them. When he first arrived here in Philadelphia, my takeaway was, wow, that dude has his head on his shoulders. This dude is no joke. He is serious. He's a legit leader in the making. So one was Nakobe Dean and one was Nolan Smith. And if you're telling me we got a foundation with those two, plus all the other talent that I can consistently run through their names if you want me to, but it seems like every day I'm telling you about how awesome Jalen Carter is going to be in the long run and how awesome Cam Jurgens is going to be, Mailata as a leader, Quinn. I could do this all day long, and I consistently do. But the truth is, their foundation is so rare, it's not even funny. Their foundation is so elite, it's absurd. And it allows for you to be able able to take some of these shots and flyers that you're taking in free agency. And yeah, you know what? Some of them are low risk, high reward. Yeah, some of them do come with low risk, 1-year deal, not a lot of money. You're not really hurting yourself too much if it ends up being a big swing and a miss. And you may be handcuffed to have to go that route because of how bad the Bryce Huff contract is. Because of, how about that, dude? Holy hell. How about that? I'm sitting here right now laying out 4 defensive ends. I haven't even brought up Bryce Huff. And that wasn't by design. All right, that wasn't like, all right, watch me do this. I'm just going to pretend the dude doesn't exist. I just flat out blacked out. I flat out blanked out when I was putting together my notes on what I wanted to talk about today. I don't even know where Bryce Huff falls in all this. I'm hoping and praying that he looks himself in the mirror and maybe he can establish himself as a part of the rotation. I do not believe he's going to be a dog. I do not believe he's going to be a force. I do not think he's going to be a stud. But is there a way when he looks himself in the mirror this offseason, he knows that he has to apply a completely different sense of urgency where he can be competent? And if you get competent, that's a lot different than not being dressable. He wasn't dressable. He wasn't even allowed to put the uniform on, let alone be limited in snaps. He wasn't even allowed to put on the clothes and the laundry on Super Bowl day. That's as low as you can get after signing such a big deal. Howie doesn't normally get a lot of things wrong. But let me tell you something, man. If Bryce Huff can at least contribute something around 5.5 sacks, 6 sacks, that's a huge complimentary piece to all the other names that I just brought up. And I didn't even mention that with the first-round draft. I don't know how they go. I don't know what they're going to carry, how many numbers, how many guys will be DNs and whatnot. So, you know, that's another wrinkle to add to this. It's another wrinkle. But I got more faith in every name I brought up over Bryce Huff, except maybe Uche, maybe. Could Bryce Huff be better than Uche? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Not Nolan Smith, though. Nolan Smith's going to pop off for double digits. Not Ojulari. Healthy. This guy's going to be scary. He had 6 sacks last year in 11 games. 5.5 sacks his sophomore year in 7 games. And 8 sacks his rookie year. Again, that was incredible to go back and look at. But you see some of his highlights on tape and all. He's gross. Ojulari's gross. He's going to be a fan favorite. Him and Nolan Smith. And Jalix Hunt's going to bring that energy, too. I almost think Jalix Hunt is a younger version of Josh Sweat. You know? And maybe with a little more personality. Some guys, just because you know who they are, when they go do something on the field, like, okay, hear me out. Josh Sweat and Jalix Hunt, they can both get the same sack. It's a 3-yard loss. It's a sack. It looks the same way. You're coming around the end. It's the same way. But because it's Jalix Hunt and he's got that big personality and he tells Howie, what up, big pimpin' and all, it hits harder. The link erupts more. I think that's where you're at with a lot of this personality and young blood and youth on this defensive line right now, where because it's them, it adds a wave of excitement. It adds a wave of injury. If Nolan Smith gets 10.5 sacks, those 10.5 sacks feel different than someone else's 10.5 sacks because it's Nolan Smith and you picked him in the first round and you projected him to help turn this franchise around, and he figured it out after being called a bust big time from a lot of people in this city, and it would just mean more. It would hit harder. And same applies to Ojulari, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, you name it. There's just something about these cats that I think we're riding with that makes this exciting. And they're not stiffs either. I heard some people around the city kind of throw jabs at Howie saying, I don't understand why anybody can be excited about an Adoree Jackson, or anybody could be excited about a Kenyon Green, who you traded for in the CJGJ deal, or any of these names outside of Ojulari. And I go, why can't I be? What do you mean? Why can't I be? There's some value in what they've done in this league, and there are a lot of bad teams out there. And if someone has failed in another organization, it doesn't mean the hit rate's going to be 100. Obviously, you sign Bryce Huff after getting double-digit sacks with the New York Jets, and he comes here and he can't dress in the Super Bowl. So, yes, of course, some Players succeed in other franchises and then they end up not working out in other places, let alone guys who may have had down years in other places. But at the same time, the track record of the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a certain standard here. And you may be able to get away with being lazy with the Giants. You may be able to get away with being, half-assing it or putting in 65% and this and that. When you see that Eagles logo, you're not allowed. You can't act unprofessional. If you do, you're not here long. There's a certain wake-up call that happens when you walk into the NovaCare complex and you realize it's different here. Their goal is to go win a championship. Brian Daboll might say that in New York at MetLife, but it's word vomit. Nobody believes it. How many times have you been sitting in a locker room where you heard your coach say something, or maybe one of your team captains stepped up and they tried to play hardball and they tried to inspire you, and you look to your teammate next to you and just, you do one of those. You go, come on, man. Brian Daboll is going to walk up day one and say, we're going to try and win a championship. You go, who's our quarterback? Oh, that's right. We may even get screwed by Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers at age 93. They don't even want to be a part of us. We're the last ones to get a chance to land one of these guys in free agency. That's how down bad we are. That's not what happens here. You see Lane Johnson talking about him elevating because he's on the back nine of his career, but he looks at that as a challenge that he's willing to accept. You hear Nick Sirianni motivate the fellas in front of that room for the first time in a new season, and he talks about winning that championship and going back to back and the journey it's going to take to get there, and you listen differently because you already know this guy's been through it. He's already made it through this before. So the words hit harder. So just because player X, Y, and Z may have had a struggle in these other destinations, it doesn't always compare to what's about to happen here. Because if I see 2 playoff runs in the last 3 years where our medical staff has this team as healthy as any team has been late in the season, then why can't I imagine that happening for Ojulari? And if that happens for Ojulari, I'm thinking double-digit sacks. You can't knock this team on paper. Not after last year and the knocking on paper that happened before the season. I may look at this pass rush and say, yeah, it's a little underwhelming. Now, I think it's good based off of circumstances, but again, it's graded on a curve. If you look at this and go, yeah, I think it's fine. It's fine. Maybe underwhelming's unfair, but if you say it's fine, well, it could be 3 steps better than fine, because last year I thought the defense was going to be fine. It was the best. Do I think they're going to be the best? Probably not. But I bet you they could be better than fine. I think if Ojulari's healthy, he's getting double-digit sacks. I think Nolan Smith's getting double-digit sacks. That's 2 guys on your line, let alone what Jalen Carter's going to do. I'm just saying. Now, of course, rotation matters, snap count matters, things of that nature. Nolan Smith with the tricep injury that he's recovering from throughout this offseason, that's a factor. I don't know exactly what he's going to look like day one, week one, and when he's first getting started back on the field. Although what I read, they do project him to, get through this rather quickly into next season. So rotation matters and whatnot, especially early in the year when they're not playing preseason. The first month is a little wonky. So there could be variables for sure. But, just kind of from an overhead view, I see 2 guys that have potential to get double-digit sacks. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. I don't know if many people can say that about their respective defensive lines before a season begins. So we'll see. Before we head out of here, Garage Beer's the best beer to ever touch my lips. DrinkGarageBeer.com. 0% IPA, 100% light beer, 1,000% quality. It's the best. It's the best. DrinkGarageBeer.com. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for kicking it with me here on Bleacher Report. You guys are the best. I will talk to you all tomorrow evening. With that, I'm out of here. Go Birds. Talk to you on the next one.